Hi everyone, you're watching the Haider Rifaat Show and I'm your host Haider Rifaat. In today's exciting episode, I have with me the very versatile Mashal Khan. Thank you so much for joining me, Mashal. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Heather. The pleasure is all mine.
Of course. Now, Mashal, let's rewind a bit. Over the course of 2.5 years, starting from Sona Chanda, you have landed pretty intense constructive roles and have since established your presence in the Pakistani entertainment industry. So to what do you attribute your early success?
Definitely the drama serial Thora Sa Haq, because it was the first time that I was doing such a big character, and that even opposite two very big, already very established names, Imran Abbas and Aiza. So I definitely think that was the turning point for me.
Got it. Now, from an actor standpoint, I have witnessed that you have played very intense, emotionally draining, and confrontational roles, with the exception of your debut drama. So, do you ever fear being typecast in these particular roles as an artist?
Definitely not, because I feel like every character of mine is so different than the previous and the next. So I think I've covered base for a lot of different kinds of characters, so I don't think I'm going to be typecast.
Now, initially, when you look back on your relatively new career, Mashal, what initially drew you to the idea of acting in the first place?
I mean, when I was a child, I always did theater. I was like the fat kid in school who didn't really have any friends. So the only place where I would feel appreciated was the stage. And as I grew up, when I lost all the weight, when I had a lot of friends, I still stuck with that feeling. And the stage and being in front of the camera has since then always had this sense of feeling like home. So that's definitely it.
In Pakistan's entertainment industry, we often talk about how roles for female actors need to evolve in order for us to progress as an industry. But we oftentimes turn a blind eye to the kinds of characters that our male counterparts are also playing. They get to lead, spearhead these patriarchal narratives, which oftentimes victimizes women. So how can we achieve that progression if male actors, are oftentimes playing these robust patriarchal roles where women do not really have that margin to perform, with the exception of only a few projects that come out once in a while or twice in a while in a year?
I mean, to be very honest, like these are the only kind of roles really available, pretty much, with the exception of a very select few. So you still have to work, right? Because if you don't do these roles, and you're not going to do the roles you're not going to bag the roles that are worth it, because you'll be waiting and waiting and waiting, and you kind of get out of shape as an actor. So I don't know what the solution is. I feel like we've been asking this question for decades, but it's, I guess, when these dramas stop rating so well and we really see that the audiences are ready for something different. But so far, I don't see that happening, sadly.
Right, right. Now, the web industry has also really taken off in Pakistan, and the content has really shifted towards that particular medium of storytelling. So, do you feel that the web content producers and the production companies overall, the independent filmmakers, are producing better culturally sound content when you compare it with the television medium, where you have channels and their set policies?
Definitely, because see, the thing about web is that you can create anything. You kind of have the freedom and ground to actually artistically explore your own art, whether you're a director, whether you're an actor, whether you're a writer, whether you're a singer. I feel like there's a lot more playing ground. And so when you give creatives the room to explore, great things are bound to come along. I think that's why actors get really excited, and so do directors and producers when it comes to web, because finally they can express themselves in a way that we don't really have that kind of space in the TV industry.
Definitely, definitely. And Mashal, speaking of the web industry, you recently starred in Lifafa Dayan, which was obviously a very good performance by you. I've seen the pilot episode so far. And you had, I think, just 2 to 3 minutes of that appearance in that particular episode, the first episode, and you did a phenomenal job. I just want to ask you, many people have been comparing your performance and the project itself with the Indian film Heroine, which starred Kareena Kapoor. So is the comparison, does it hold some merit, or do you think it's a
Um,
coincidence?
I just feel like it's such a generalized character that it can just be taken like that very easily for sure. But so when I was a kid, my mom always used to say, "Oh my God, you look just like Kareena Kapoor." So I think, and I have gotten that comment a lot of times. So I feel like maybe at the back of people's heads, because there's that square jaw, because there's the prominent nose, the big lips, the lighter eyes. I feel like people just subconsciously take it there. Whereas, except for the unhinged woman, which is a very broad character, I feel like none of the other characters, because, like, for example, she had that agent, right? Except in Heroine. But in Lifafa, there was no one protecting this girl. In Heroine, she had a lot of people around her who cared about her. Alina Ali, we've seen as a major loner who really doesn't have anyone. So I feel like there's a lot more differences than similarities.
Hmm, hmm. And now, amongst all the characters that you have played so far, which one has been the most difficult to transition out of for you personally?
Definitely Lafafa, definitely Alina Ali. I really got in there. And when you're playing an addict, when you're playing someone so unhinged and you get used to living in that solitude, then kind of pulling yourself out and trying to pour yourself into a much plainer character, I did have to like rehabilitate myself for a few days.
Mhm. And what is that process really like? I mean, transitioning out of a character, especially playing it on screen and being into it so much. Doesn't it get to you?
So to be honest, it's kind of like recovering from a flu. Okay, so your symptoms begin to dry out, but when you wake up in the morning and right when you're going to sleep at night, it's a little bit intense. To be honest, I think all actors would agree with me. It is a very bittersweet feeling
Mhm.
because on one end you're like, yes, I did it. I got into character to the point where it affected me. But then on the other side, you're just like, man, it kind of hurts though. I don't like want to feel this. So I feel like it's very bittersweet.
Hmm. Now, moving on, let's talk a bit about social media. Social media has become this very open platform for people to really talk about other people and spew criticism, which is very much unwanted. So, as an actor, has that really happened with you personally, where you feel as though people are using social media or exploiting social media to vent out anger unnecessarily?
I mean,
Whether it's
all the
directed
time.
at your appearance, whether it's directed at your work. I mean, there's one thing to have constructive criticism aimed at your work, but it's one thing to put you down personally.
Yeah, so I feel like that just kind of comes with the territory. I feel like as celebrities, we are mostly public property. As awful as that is, it just kind of is like it's like a bitter chew to swallow, but sorry, a bitter what is maybe
Pill,
help me out.
pill to
Pill
swallow.
to swallow, a bitter pill to swallow. Yeah, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's like at the same time you kind of know that coming into the industry you will have people doing this. You just have to like ignore it, take it in your in like the best way possible and focus on the positives because I feel like it's not even 10% negativity. It's just like sometimes something will come up or sometimes someone says something really nasty, but most of the time it's a lot of love, so I focus on that.
Hmm. But still, Mashal, don't you feel as though these social media websites, especially like Instagram and Facebook, including Twitter, where things tend to get a lot more toxic than they really are? Don't you think that it's upon these social media websites and the owners to really place these checks and balances to ward off trolling, to ward off these negative comments? What is your take as an actor on this?
So to be honest, it's usually a lot of the smaller pages that don't have enough traction who are just trying to get in there, get some views, get some likes, get some traction on their pages. But like honestly, that's gutter journalism. You can't exactly do anything about it. Before it used to be like you look at any of the senior journalists, right? They're not gonna post this stuff. They're not gonna be posting idle gossip. They're not gonna post opinions that their own editors will have. They're not gonna make like really hurtful headlines and stuff like that because they're real journalists. They know that journalists have a code that they function by. But then these little blogs who don't know the ethics of journalism, they just come and they try to say stuff, but you kind of just have to ignore them. It's like that one or two annoying people in school that you kind of just ignore. You're like, whatever, they're just there.
You're drawing this comparison with the general public as well, because they tend to do this more often than,
I mean, like them to like they like don't. I only focus on the general public that is like kind and compassionate and sends me love. Like I don't even have time for the hate. I just like if I see like a hint of hate at the beginning of a message, I'll just scroll past it.
So, but do
Yeah.
you still feel though that checks and balances should be enacted on these social media websites?
You can't. There's so many laws in place, but at the end of the day, you can't, honestly.
Okay. Now, Mashal, from a personal standpoint, if you were to change one thing about your past, what would it be and why?
Instead of studying math, I would have definitely gone to acting school. I felt like everything that took me 2 years, 1 year, 2 years to learn, I would have come out of acting school having already learned that. And so I would have had like a major jump start. But now, alhamdulillah, I am where I am. So like, I'm cool with it. It's fine.
Now, speaking of acting, which you've just spoken about, are you more of a natural actor, or did you really have to train yourself to become one on your own? Since you haven't been to an acting school, I believe.
I mean, theater taught me a lot, but the transition from theater to TV was the difficult part because in in acting there are a lot of like technicals, right, which you have to be aware of. But in theater, it's kind of just like you go with it. In acting, in front of TV, you have to give stuff like music margins. There's a lot of techniques. So I feel like the adjustment was a little bit difficult, but I've always been someone who will always do in front of the camera whatever I'm feeling at that moment, whatever I feel like my character would be feeling.
Got it. And very lastly, Mashal, to conclude, any piece of advice you would like to give to people who are going through hardships?
I would just say hang in there. You don't know what it's gonna be like 5 years later. And I promise you, like sometimes things are so difficult, they're so tough. But at the end of the day, when you look back like 10 years, 5 years, you always think, so this is why that happened. This is what brought me to who I am today. So I definitely think extraordinary people come from extraordinary circumstances. So just hang in there, put love and light and positivity out there, and it'll always find its way back to you. It's like a law of life.
Great. Thank you so much. On that note, Mashal, I conclude the interview. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, Heather. I wish you the best.
Thank you so much. That is all for now, guys. Stay tuned for more on my official YouTube channel and Facebook page. Until then, take care. Allah Hafiz.